Just letting you know, that radio is also thatchannel.com, Canada's #1 internet broadcaster since 2004. Use this station to promote your business, project, music, or organization. Give us a call at 416-204-9951 or email us to be a guest on our Liquid Lunch Show. Weekday afternoon.
Live. It's Tuesday, January 24th, 2012. Lisa is my co-host today. Lisa, it's been a long time since you've been on the show.
Yeah, it has been quite a while since you invited me. Maybe you should invite me a little bit
No, I didn't invite
often.
you. You invited yourself.
Exactly. It's gotten to the point where I have to invite myself on this show.
Well, I didn't know that. They're adjusting the camera. You came down from. Did you come down from Brampton today?
I came all the way from Brampton, Ontario.
Yeah. How's things going up in Brampton?
In Brampton, it's very congested. There's a lot of people moving into that area.
Really?
Yeah, it's an overflow.
Yeah.
Of people moving up into that urban part of this world, and then they're moving into Milton. So it's kind of like
I know.
Everyone's filtering out of Toronto and leaving all the young people here.
Well, what's happening is the city just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
I mean,
tremendously.
People that I know that grew up in Milton, they don't recognize the place now because it's so.
Yeah, it's changed.
It's the newest.
Very
suburb.
Colorful.
It's like the newest suburb now.
It is.
Right.
It is.
So we're out to Milton now, in the west.
Milton's nice. My brother actually moved out to Milton with his family, and you know, they're getting larger homes. They're getting more for the bang of the buck.
I know, but you got that commute is just. Hey, my friend moved out to Winston Churchill and Aquitaine.
Careful, people don't know where that is.
Well, it's in far northwest Mississauga, and
in the corners of the world.
It's almost to Milton. You can almost see Milton from the edge
from the farmland in front of it. Yeah.
But it's like, whoa, what a commute.
It is,
right?
And you know, it's interesting because people here in Toronto will consider places like Brampton or Collingwood and so forth a serious commute because of gas prices. The traffic is tremendous.
Well, why would they consider? I mean, that's the thing. The gas prices that keep going up. That's going to make those commutes less attractive.
Very expensive. Right? And yes, indeed.
Until the water-powered car comes out.
The hydrobread, yeah.
Have you heard about it?
Yeah, I've heard.
About the water-powered car?
I heard about that, a little bit about it. You probably know more because you're a bigger techie than I.
Here's what's interesting. I've been trying to follow the free energy story for a long time.
Okay.
Right? Because right now, so much of the world economy is wrapped up in oil. Right?
True.
How much of our budgets every month go to spending for heating bills, even electricity, any kind of energy, or whether it's gas for our car or whatever it is, right? Imagine if we didn't have to spend all that money, right? It would free up the whole economy.
It would. And then you can run for Prime Minister of Canada in relations to what's going on politically in the U.S. right now. You sound very political.
But I'm just talking about water-powered cars.
Let's vote for you.
All I'm saying is, you know, they say, well, how could you have a car that runs on water?
Yeah, well.
Right? Why you use water to put out fires, not to light them, right?
Well, cars don't really light fires, but yeah.
Well, yeah, they do, because you put the gas in, it makes a fire in the engine, and that's where the power comes from.
Oh,
right?
Educational tip. Okay.
But the thing about water is that it's
clean.
It's 2/3 hydrogen.
Yes.
Hydrogen is a fuel. Water is the most efficient way to store hydrogen, and there's people that have come up with this, but they keep just.
So you're thinking that if more vehicles are made with hydrogen and oxygen, water, people will not have issues of traveling further distances because they're not polluting the air?
I'm just saying, if you had water as a fuel, first of all, you'd have essentially free fuel, right?
No, they would just start taxing water.
In the tank, right? Plus, the thing is, if you're worried about we're going to run out of fresh water, if we can use water as a fuel, then we can desalinate the oceans at will. Right? We can turn the Sahara into a giant Garden of Eden.
But considering that water is surrounding our city and is in such plentiful resources and accessibility, wouldn't it make sense for the government to even consider going in that direction?
Here's the thing. First of all, officially, there is no such thing.
There's no such thing
as the water-powered car, even though there was a company in Japan that developed one, and there was a company in India that developed one, and there was a guy in Ohio that developed one, and there's been people in Toronto that have developed them. But officially it doesn't exist.
Because they don't come with the financial background right now.
Because first of all, if you pull the rug out from under the oil industry, you pull the rug out from
there goes campaign contributions to our government. There goes to a lot of people who are paying for
the whole status quo power structure.
You'll take down
would be threatened by that.
The capital society that we live in, and will just come to a crumbling halt.
No.
Planet of the Apes will return.
I thought it was in the future.
The Chronicles. Oh gosh. So basically, yes, I'm from Brampton, Ontario, and I did find my map quest through my iPhone to
I can't believe you need that to get here. You've been here a million times. I can't believe
the road keeps changing.
One of these. Yeah.
The roads keep changing, and I noticed even coming here that the signs for when you can drive down a street, when you can park, make a left or a right turn, keeps changing. It's like you got gremlins in the city of the core of downtown Toronto that keeps running up these poles and changing the signs on people. What gives?
Rob Ford. Actually,
he's 10 pounds lighter.
I heard. Is he?
He's 9 pounds lighter now.
It's. I heard a story. You know, Rob Ford's got all this. Rob Ford's got all this problems that he's dealing with at City Hall, and a friend of mine was out I forget, out like in northwest Toronto somewhere, and there was a knock. I think he was at an apartment building. There was a knock on the door. This is like within the last week, and guess who was at the door? It was Rob Ford. Just staying in touch with the constituents. Just staying in touch with the people, and you got to hand that to him. You know,
what was he handing
he's doing. He's just out there. He's taking the pulse of the community, talking to people.
Wow.
You know, trying to just figure out what people want.
Maybe he's found a new world.
Well, I heard that that's what he was like before. That this is one of the reasons why he has, if it's not just, you know, voting machines voting for him. Why he has any support is that he is in touch with the community.
He's got an amazing PR person.
I don't know about that. Anyways, okay, Lisa.
Who do we got coming on this show today?
We've got Philip Shepard's going to be here. He's been here before. He's got a book called New Self, New World, and he's got an event coming up where he's going to be, I don't know, we're going to find out from Philip exactly what that event's all about. He brought a great guest in a couple of weeks ago, Andrew Harvey. And Andrew Harvey was in town to talk about, he's written a book about hope. Anyways, how to deal with all the stuff that's going on in the world.
Very inspirational.
The economic problems, the environmental problems, the political problems, all those kind of stuff. And Philip is into that, so we're going to have a very interesting discussion with him. Okay. Also, Lisa Robbins is coming in. Now, she's written a book called The Cancer Journal, Heal Yourself. And here's another example, Lisa.
Yes.
Of people have been talking about that you can cure cancer, and yet people are always still soliciting funds for cancer research. You know, that the cure has not officially been found, and yet there are people like Lisa, who's coming in today, who say that you can cure cancer if you want to, and you got to do
power of the mind.
You got to do it yourself. But it's also things like diet, which our medical establishment hasn't really wrapped their heads around fully yet. The fact that diet is so important, lifestyle is important, and it's not just as simple as a magic bullet that's going to.
But this is a constant problem that we're always facing, because we want to look for alternative cures for things, or fix-its, or problem solvings that are not showing themselves to exist right now. And the reason why we do that is a lot of it has to tie in with finances and monies and making profits. If I can come up with something illusional that I claim that will cure something, and I know I can bring in some revenues from it, why not? We're about this enterprise thing. However, before all of this, before the pharmacies, before the doctor's office and the hospitals, there was natural medicine. Is this something new to us? Of course not. So if there's a way that we can use our minds to overcome the way that we feel health-wise, or we can use things that are naturally presented in front of us, like eating properly, nutritions and diets, herbs and so forth, it's no big surprise. I think it's more of a big wonder that people can look at the simplicities of life and solve a lot of their bigger issues, especially health-wise.
Right.
I'm a juicer, so
Are you?
totally, I juice everything.
I have a juicer.
You have a juicer?
I'm not a juicer. I have a juicer. That's the difference between you and me. You are a juicer. I have a juicer.
Okay, so when you take yours out of the box, what do?
I have made juice.
You have made juice.
But it's been a while.
I love green juices. I think a lot of the nutritions that you can get are more presented in live foods by juicing it compared to using chemical things like pills. And
why don't we make juice after the show?
You want to make juice? It's liquid lunch, so.
It is liquid lunch, yeah.
You have to. You have to consider what you can make. Put it in the blender.
I use carrots, ginger,
good cleanser,
garlic.
Yes.
I know you got
good
that
fighter
after that, but what else? Apples.
Apples are good
in
for flavor.
And any, if I go, I'll go get the discounted fruit that they're selling off cheap because it's going to go rotten soon. You can put that in the juice, and it's fine.
So you get fruit that has a little bit of brown spots on it, but it's okay.
Okay, and then also Lisa is a witch.
What?
She's a good witch, just like Linda.
We're having a witch on the show?
What it says here, thegoodwitch.ca is her website. You can check it out right now.
Where's my cross? Go like this. She's a good witch, though. So
like Linda.
So she kind of glide into the show.
She comes in like a bubble. And
is there going to be like puff of smoke while she's going to appear? Should I have a bottle of water ready to go? No? She's going to ride in her room.
Also, Susan Sommers is coming in. She's in international.
The Susan Sommers?
No, not that Susan.
Not that Susan Sommers. Okay.
But this is she's a she's a marathoner. She's I don't want to say how old she is, but she's not.
She's forever young.
I think she started running maybe in her 60s. Started running. She's done a lot of different marathons. She finished second at the Scotiabank Marathon last year. And she's a motivational speaker, and she's written a book, The Power Source for Women, Proven Fitness Strategies, Tools and Success Stories for Women 45 plus.
Wow. Usually women stop running at 60 because gravity starts pulling everything downwards instead of going forwards.
I gotta ask her about this. I used to run, and then I stopped running because I just was feeling it in my joints. And I started riding my bike instead, which is like not as hard on your joints, right? And I see some of these older people jogging, then they're trying to stay fit. But I'm going, your body, the knees.
Yeah.
Right? And look what happened to that James Fix guy.
Knees, the feet, there's so many, joints in the knees, in the feet itself. And then your brain starts shaking when you're running. Like I find when I run, I can feel like something shaking.
Maybe you should... you should get your heads in.
I feel like something just like knocking in my head when I ride hard. I do prefer swimming. I love swimming.
That's really healthy for you.
I do taekwondo.
Do you?
Yeah, I have to do self-defense.
Okay.
And you never know what crazy people you might end up sitting beside.
All right, let's take a little break. I got a video lined up for it. I'm not sure what it is, but we're going to watch it. We're going to come back. Hopefully Philip will be here in a couple of minutes. And we are on the air, Liquid Lunch, here on thatchannel.com. We'll be right back.
Attention all you rule breakers, you misfits and troublemakers, all you free spirits and pioneers, all you visionaries and nonconformists. Everything the establishment has told you is wrong with you is actually what's right with you. You see things others don't. You are hardwired to change the world. Unlike 9 out of 10 people, your mind is irrepressible, and this threatens authority. strengths dangerous to the establishment, and it wants them eliminated. So your whole life you've been told your strengths were weaknesses. Now I'm telling you otherwise. Your impulsivity is a gift. Impulses are your key to the miraculous. Your distractibility is an artifact of your inspired creativity. Your mood swings reflect the natural pulse of life. They give you unstoppable energy when you're high, and deep soulful insight when you're low. Been diagnosed with a disorder? That's society's latest way to deny its own illness by pointing the finger at you. Your addictive personality is just a symptom of your vast, underused capacity for heroic creative expression and spiritual connection. Your utter lack of repression, your wide-eyed idealism, your unmitigated open mind. Didn't anyone ever tell you? These are the traits shared by the greatest pioneers and visionaries, innovators, revolutionaries, procrastinators, and drama queens, activists on the social scene, space cadets, and mavericks, philosophers, and derelicts, business suits, flying fighter jets, football stars and sex addicts, celebrities with ADD, alcoholics who seek novelty, first responders, prophets and saints, mystics, and change agents. We are all the same, you know, 'cause we're all affected by the way. We are all the same, you know, 'cause we're all attracted to the flame. You know in your heart there's a natural order, something more sovereign than any man-made rules or laws could ever express. And this natural order is called the way. The way is the eternal substrate of the cosmos. It guides the very current of time and space. The way is known by some as the will of God, divine providence, the Holy Spirit, the implicate order, the Tao, reverse entropy, light force. But for now, we'll simply call it the way. The way is reflected in you as the source of your inspiration, the source of your passions, your wisdom, your enthusiasm, your intuition, your spiritual fire, love. The way takes the chaos out of the universe and breathes life into it, giving it divine order. The way, when expressed by the mind, is genius. When perceived through the eyes, is beauty. When felt through the senses, is grace. When allowed into the heart, is love. Most people cannot sense the way directly, but then there are the wayseers, the keepers of the flame. Wayseers have an unexplainable knack for just knowing the way. They sense it in their very being. They can't tell you why or how they arrived at the right answer. They just know it in their core. They can't show their work, so don't ask. Their minds simply resonate with the way. When the way is present, so are they. While others are blind to it, and society begs you to ignore it, the way stirs you inside. Neurological repression blocks most people's awareness of the way. Censoring all thoughts and impulses from the unconscious is their prefrontal cortex, the Gestapo of the brain. Nothing which violates its socialized programming even gets through. But your mind is different. Your mind has been cracked wide open to the way by some miraculous genetic trait, some psychotropic chemical, or maybe even by the will of your own soul. Your brain's reward pathways have been hijacked. Dopamine employed to overthrow the fascist dictatorship of your prefrontal cortex. Now your brain is free of repression. Your mind free of censorship. Your awareness exposed to the turbulent seas of the unconscious. Through this open doorway, divine light shines into your consciousness, showing you the way. This is what makes you a wayseer. 99% of human civilization is populated with those whose brains are blocked to the way. Their brains are hardwired to enforce the social programming indoctrinated since birth. Unlike you, they cannot break out of this programming because they have not yet experienced the necessary revolution of mind. These programmed people take social institutions and rules very seriously. Society is full of games programmed to keep people's minds occupied so they will not revolt. These games often cause sick fixations on peculiar protocols, power structures, taboos, and domination, all subtle forms of human bondage. This distinct form of madness is not only tolerated by the masses, but insisted upon. The programmed ones believe in rules so forcefully, they become willing to destroy anyone who violates them. Wayseers are the ones who call their bluff. Since Wayseer minds are free to reject social programming, Wayseers readily see these social institutions for what they are, imaginary games. Wayseers comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Helping those who are lost in these games and refuse to help themselves is the calling of many Wayseers. Since Wayseers are the ones who keep contact with the original source of reality, they are able to disrupt societal conventions and even governments to realign humanity with the way. The Wayseers are an ancient lineage, a kind of priesthood, carriers of the flame, ones in the know. There must always be Wayseers to reform the dizzying, psychotic, spinning wheels of society, giant, mindless hamster wheels obscuring the pure blue sky, keeping humanity shackled in a darkened cage. So Wayseers are called to shed light on the madness of society, to continually resurrect the timeless, transcendent spirit of truth. Wayseers reveal this divine truth by devoting themselves to the birth of some creative or disruptive act, expressed through art or philosophy, innovations to shake up industry, revolutions for democracy, coups that topple hypocrisy, movements of solidarity, changes that leave a legacy, rebellions against policy, spirit-infused technology, moments of clarity, things that challenge barbarity, watersheds of sincerity, momentous drives for charity. We are all the same, you know, 'cause we're all affected by the way. We are all the same, you know, 'cause we're all attracted to the flame. This is your calling, Wayseer. You found your tribe. Welcome home.
All right. So that was the Wayseers Manifesto, and I don't know. It looked like you were paying attention there.
I
Lisa.
was actually, and I found it very creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I like this. There's a little quote there where they say, the celebrities with ADD. I just have to laugh.
Oh yeah.
It's like- I just think that the producers of that really touched on a lot of conscious issues, and it was very creative in expressing it. It was really interesting.
Well, I'm glad that's a perfect segue to start our discussion with our first guest today. We have Philip Shepard here.
Welcome.
Author of this book. I'm holding it up, Phil.
God
New
bless
Self,
you.
New World. And it's a great book. And I was telling Lisa earlier that you rode your bike from where was it, London to Tokyo?
Well, I wanted to. This was the plan, but they wouldn't let me through Burma, and they wouldn't let me through China, so I got stuck at India and then flew to Hong Kong and to Osaka and then cycled through
My
China.
query was how you would get from London.
There was a
and
bit of
then-
water involved.
Yeah, see, there you go. That was
Yes,
my
there was
question.
a crossing of the English
How d-
Channel. Yep.
Okay, and how did you
Undeniably.
get from the mainland over to Japan? What would you do?
Well,
Fly from the
Well,
airport?
he
You have
had
to ride
fly.
back? You would have to
take a
ride back?
ferry. Ferries are
ferry?
okay.
Ferry. I take ferries every day. I think it's an important
There's a ferry that
part of
takes you
one's
over
life.
to Japan?
Well, he lives on the island.
You live on the island.
I live on an island. But that's not the ferry I took to get. So I took a ferry from England to France.
Right.
And then I got as far as India and
Right.
got stuck basically because I couldn't. They wouldn't let
Get
you
to
through
Burma.
Burma. They wouldn't let me through China. This was in the early 70s.
Oh yeah.
Am I dating myself? It was 72, so they wouldn't. It was just closed up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wasn't
So
born
then I
to
had
change those
to
laws.
fly. Yeah.
So you could have done it.
So it's not at your feet, absolutely. So then I basically flew from India to Hong Kong, and
Nice.
then I flew from Hong Kong to Osaka, which was stunning, and then cycled through Japan.
Wow. Okay. So, and no doubt that that experience, that's a phenomenal life experience, has informed everything you've done since.
It enabled me to come back home and ask questions that I couldn't even begin to frame. How do you question what's normal? How do you question the wallpaper that you've grown up with and it's just always been there? So there are foundational issues that were just my givens, my normal, and the most difficult thing in the world is to question your normal. So yeah, stepping out of that culture into so many different ways of understanding what it means to be human was, and then, you know, the only time I suffered culture shock, going through all those different cultures, was when I returned home. And the unfamiliar was suddenly so bizarre and arbitrary, and yet people just buy into it.
You know, it kind of reminds me of that metaphor. I don't know if it's a metaphor, but the Marshall McLuhan used to use when he's talking about, you know, fish don't know that they live in water. And so by you stepping out of our culture into a completely different culture and then coming back, well, you could all of a sudden see the water.
Absolutely. That's exactly,
It's a different
exactly
lens.
right. And then it took me years and years to sort my way through the questions and pursue them. And eventually the book arose out of all that.
And I think that's so important. Being myself, that I worked with the airlines for many years, for people to step out of their cultural bubble, step out of their norm or little box, and see the world differently from experience, to come back and make a decision.
Yeah. And so much of what we deem good and bad and right and wrong is just an entirely arbitrary cultural construct. And to shed all of that and just come back to our simple humanity, you know, right and wrong don't need defining. They're heartfelt things.
That's a controversial statement. So, well, let's talk a little bit about these. You've got a talk and a workshop coming up towards the end of the month. I guess this weekend.
The end of this week, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the time's just flying by.
It
It's
does.
2012.
Jeez, fasten your seatbelts.
I know. You think?
No, I think, I mean, historically, there's nothing in the Mayan tradition that says it's the end of time. You know, I went to the ROM, to the Mayan exhibit, and apparently it's one little phrase and one little thing that, but I do think it's a time of renewal, and you don't have renewal without destruction. And so, I mean, the two go together, and who knows what we're heading into. I don't think the Mayans were foretelling the end of existence. I think we read that into the Mayans because we sense the end of the way of living that we've attached ourselves to has to end, or we will end. You know, it's kind of...
Couldn't it be interpreted more so that, like you're saying, the way that we live and conduct ourselves is going to change?
That is what
The new
end,
world, the
has
new
to end.
mentality, the new way of approaching matters and how we live our lives.
Yes.
Technology does that every 3 years, isn't it?
Yeah. And we think that we're developing all these conveniences in our lives, and what we're doing is, I mean, the definition of a convenience, speaking of technology, is that it allows you to bypass process. Well, life is process. And so by leaning on all these technologies, we lose touch with the deep and natural processes of the earth. We don't even want to know about them, right?
That's, you know, that's
kids in school think chickens come in plastic bags. They don't know that they're actually grown on a farm.
That reminds me of a joke.
Oh, tell
I
it.
think
too.
it would be bad if it's not in South Park. It's.
Well, sounds appropriate.
You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's kind of rude.
prepare yourself.
Why do chickens not wear pants?
You got to tell me, Hugh.
Because their peckers are on their head.
It was worth telling.
Okay.
Signature Hugh joke.
Okay, so that's interesting that life is process, and that by bypassing process, because all of technology, and I've thought about this before too, all of technology is a shortcut to get things done faster.
Exactly.
But the point is not the destination, the point is the journey.
Process.
Right?
And then what are you doing to yourself?
Right, but try to convince business people about that, or any, I mean, you know, we're all on this treadmill. We're all on this, you know, we got to pay the bills, we have to.
We are committed to doing in our culture, and we have forsaken being. Now, I talk about this in my book. Being I associate with the female aspect of our consciousness, that ability to just be and come into relationship and empathize and feel. And doing I associate with the male aspect of our consciousness. Gotta do, get it done, streamline, forget the other stuff. This is, you know, the end of the journey is what's important. But the foundation of those aspects of our consciousness is in the body. So doing is what the head is fabulous at. You calculate, you figure out the abstractions, you schematize, you systemize, you forge your path and anticipate, but it's all abstraction. It's not connected with the present. Being is associated with the belly, and most other cultures know this, and in fact there's a second brain in the belly. But by bypassing process, you bypass that whole side of yourself that is able to come into relationship with the present and be guided by it, because there's infinite guidance at every moment if you can drop into the present moment. It's like we've got these two aspects of our consciousness, and we've sort of streamlined ourselves and fastened onto one, and the other one we've left in the outback. And so my talk and my workshop and my book are about finding our way back into our own being. We think it a virtue to dissociate our thinking from our being. We think, oh, I can think more clearly if I shut out everything I'm feeling and just concentrate on that. But what you're doing is you're cutting out your conduit, your bridge to the world around you. And this notion that our thinking is trapped inside our heads and we're responsible for it alone is nonsense. If you put someone in a room like an isolation chamber, and you take away what they can see and what they can hear and the feeling and their whole sense consciousness of the world around them, they go nuts. They can't think. They descend into rampant fantasy. They go mad. You think hand in hand with the world, and the more you acknowledge that, the more sensitive you're thinking.
But isn't that how you're raised, basically, when you're taught from a child's aspect to have these attachments, to understand these principles, to be guided by these, what we call normalities, on, you know, through the guidance of your parents. Their security base is on what you've been taught. Releasing and removing securities cause a depletion of your self-worth and a sense of questioning whether or not even that decision in itself was a rightful decision.
And those are exactly the issues that I had to leave on my bike to get away from. So you come back to our culture and you see, oh my goodness, no wonder we live in our heads, because we're told as kids that you have to have a good head on your shoulders, and two heads are better than one, and you know, keep a straight head, and you spend hours and hours sitting at a desk in a classroom paying attention to the head of the class. So all of a sudden the body doesn't matter. What matters is what the head is saying, and you've got to absorb that. And all that life of the body is just crippled by the time you get out of there. Your spiritual life, your urge, your love of life. I mean, what happens to our love of life? You think in the scale of your priorities, you know, most people their love of life is like way, way down there, after paying the mortgage, after, you know, catching the latest Hollywood flick, whatever it might be. And you can't express that love of life without a fully embodied experience of it.
How do we get to this state, Philip? I mean, we've this whole idea that there's a masculine principle and a feminine principle, and what you're saying is that the head-oriented is kind of like your masculine principle, and the belly brain is more the feminine. And people have been talking about this for a long time, and in a sense you can look at the world. We have an Eastern Hemisphere and a Western Hemisphere in the world. In a way that masculine and feminine is like the two sides of the brain as well, right?
Absolutely.
So, and some people say that this happened for a reason, or that maybe there was maybe it doesn't matter how it happened, but how do we get back to where we...
The myths of the world tell us that it does matter, because in mythology, Joseph Campbell talks about the hero and the tyrant, which are the central figures in myth. And the tyrant he calls the man of self-achieved independence. Myth is talking about the parts of ourselves, what we do to our own bodies. So when you leave the body behind and move into your head, you are becoming a tyrant. You are achieving that kind of self-independence. And suddenly your bridge to the world is cut off. The hero is the man of self-achieved submission. So to drop down into the body and submit to that feeling and the core of your being is the heroic act that reunites you with the female aspect of your consciousness. So the tyrant is the one who turns his back on the female aspect of his consciousness, and the hero is the one who submits to it. And you look at the Tao Te Ching and it says, yeah, know the male, but keep to the female. Home is our being. Home is not, you know, this abstract space of ideas that we get caught in and we go round and round and round. To come home to yourself is also to come home to the world. And how do we do it? I mean, I think the first step is an understanding, and it's been a 10,000-year journey for us as a culture, because we began with our experiential center in the belly. Just as the Japanese talk about hara being the belly center of understanding. It's the source of your deepest truth and understanding. And you can see, if you look at history, how the Neolithic Revolution precipitated this rise of our consciousness. So by Homer's day, Homer uses a word, phrene, that means mind, and diaphragm. They thought they experienced the mind there, and so they thought, oh, the diaphragm must be the brain. Mm-hmm. And then the migration continued. So by Plato's day, we were in our heads, and we've been moving more and more into abstraction ever since there. Abstraction, you know, the word itself comes from Latin, means to cut away from, and that's what we've done. We've cut ourselves away from the world. So to understand what's happened, and on the most intimate, personal level, to understand what's happened to you in your life, and then the only way I know of to recover that is to find exercises that restore the sensitivity of the body, which is what the weekend workshop is about. They're gentle, fun, playful exercises, but they're also kind of confusing, because suddenly you're up against paradigms that are challenging really basic aspects of how you deal with life.
Mm-hmm.
Like what?
Like
what could be challenging,
like
for
breath.
example? Yeah.
We know that it's important to breathe deeply into the body. And what we think that means, oh, you push your breath down until it's deep. Well, if you're pushing your breath into your body, you're being tyrannical about it. You're saying, this is the result I have to get, and you're pushing it down. You can go completely the other way. If you bring your sensitivity to the pelvic floor, to the perineum, which is like at the very center of the pelvic floor, you'll actually be able to feel the breath as though it comes in through the pelvic floor into your core, and release. And if you can draw the breath gently into your core in that way, it changes your whole sensitivity. If you say, so repeat.
I'm breathing right now.
I'm just noticing that his breathing. Did you see that? His breathing has changed.
Because I've been trying to do the breathing thing, you know, some of that rebirthing and all that sort of thing.
Great.
You know,
have you done the Groff stuff at all, or the holotropic breath work?
No.
Anyway, it's good too. But okay, here's a simple exercise, right? Repeat after me: carpet, window, ceiling.
Is that my new mantra?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Carpet, window, ceiling.
So we did two very different things.
Okay.
Carpet, window, ceiling.
Okay. Carpet, window, ceiling.
So you're stopping your breath between the words, and I'm not.
Okay.
When you stop your breath, you put your life on hold. It's like wallpaper. You don't even notice. You're not even aware. And then why am I stopping my breath? Because the brain says, wait now and then speak. But meanwhile, that current of life that sustains you is kind of put on hold. So with little things like that, and that's what the workshop is about, right? Finding these things that we're not even aware of, and oh my gosh, and then it feels so much better to say carpet, window, ceiling, without interrupting the breath and arresting it.
And of course, that raises that whole issue of how we deal with childbirth, right? And how that affects
Let the machines
how a person
take
breathes
over
for their whole life, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that journey down the birth canal is research indicates is essential to awakening us as human beings.
Okay. Now, Philip, so this Friday at 7 to 9 is The Talk, Recovering Our Senses in the 21st Century. Now, let's just get into some detail about that. Like, what can people expect to take away from that discussion, and what will you be talking about?
I look at the wallpaper and peel it off the wall and say, did you notice this? Did you notice that the icons that we use for our washrooms, the icons that have developed over decades to make us most easily recognize ourselves, is a circle that is detached from a body? Mm-hmm. There's no connection between the head and the body. And that's the image we've developed in which we most readily recognize ourselves. And then recognize in yourself how that image is actually inhabiting yourselves. So I talk about our history. I talk about how the Neolithic Revolution affected us and is still affecting us today. When we get in our cars and drive them, it's like McLuhan says, it changes who you are. You're in this little bubble, the way we live in our heads, and we've designed our cars to be like a head with its headlights as the eyes. And maybe 5 headlights would light up the road better, but no, we need 2 headlights because that's us, right? That's how that's what the head is, and that's where we're comfortable. So it looks at all these things that shape our behavior and our thinking, but most importantly, they shape how we live in the body and the world. And in the course of the talk, I do a couple of simple exercises just to kind of bring people back into their bodies in a different way.
My only question that I would pose, even if I had an opportunity to go to the workshop, which I would definitely love to go to and find out more, because you're really enlightening me in so many ways. My question to you would be, how then, once you've accepted this connection between the head and the body, do you suggest a person can walk forward through this new world that they've discovered and exist now that they are one of the few people that are exercising this principle?
When I talk about this kind of marriage of the two aspects of our consciousness, it's not that you get rid of the ability to reason. It's just you recognize, well, reason, which up until now I've considered the foremost faculty I exist, is actually impotent at the things that matter most. You cannot reason your way into the present however hard you try. It's impossible. And if you're not present, then what are you doing in your life? So that balance between the male and the female isn't throwing the male away. It's feeling the body as this axis of consciousness rather than feeling our consciousness balled up in our head. And to move forward is something that is a very different process. We're so used to thinking abstractly about how to move forward and making our decisions according to weighing the pluses and the minuses. The world is calling to you at every moment. And once you've dropped into your body, you join the world in a way that sensitizes you to what the world is asking of you.
So the world becomes more fuller, more enriched.
Yes, and you find companionship.
Keep breathing. Keep breathing.
There is companionship in every aspect.
That's beautiful.
Of the world around
now
you.
Philip, I know, okay, but I hear stories from people who I think have done what you're suggesting here. And what happens in some cases is they leave their high-paying corporate job and they end up living on the streets, and that's their choice. They want to do that because they just want. They've gotten to that point where they just want to have nothing to do with the complex, technological Western society. But there they are living at Nathan Phillips Square or wherever.
Yeah.
Right. And I want what you're talking about, but I do not want to live at Nathan Phillips Square.
But also
Try it before you reject.
that would be like the worst case scenario.
No,
but I think there is also, I've also heard of a gentleman who had multiple millions of dollars who chose this concept as well and has just reduced himself to a nice little moderate home, rides his bike into where he's working now with some others who've joined him on this escapade. So it doesn't have to go to that extreme, I don't think.
But also, I mean, it's a process. So the people who end up at Nathan Phillips Square have gone through the disencumbering of all these things, but they haven't surrendered to the present. They haven't heard the world calling to them. The world I mean, you're here for some very special purpose, and the world doesn't want you to sit on the sidewalk and spend your days like that. The world wants you to participate.
But do we have to do what the world wants? Or isn't that part of the trick, is just to say, forget all that?
The surfer is doing what the world wants insofar as the world provides the wave, and he can't control the wave, but he can sure have a lot of fun on it. Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of doing what the world wants. It's co-creation, right?
Well, maybe there are some people down there at Nathan Phillips, the homeless people, that are actually enjoying.
That's their home.
That lifestyle, and those ones are probably doing what they are doing what you.
There's something to be said for honoring the mendicant. For I mean to find peace in that situation. But I think in reality, not that many of them have found peace. I think they're struggling with psychological damage.
I understand,
and all the rest
but
of it.
it's really hard to say. It's almost like no one else can judge, where a person's at in terms of whether they're on the right path or whether they're in touch with their feminine, their masculine.
There is no right path. There's no right way. I mean, when the world calls to you, desire. Our word desire comes from the Latin desiderus, of the stars. It's like you look at a night sky teeming with stars, and it awakens you to yourself and to your purpose. And my gosh, when you're at one with your purpose in that way, you are experiencing a fully embodied life. And what more can anyone ask? And it has nothing to do with making lots of money or ending up, mendicant. I've been in situation, I was in Iran for 2 weeks without food, and it was all right day to day. It was all right. I learned things, but that kernel of purpose within each one of us cannot be activated as long as we're living in our heads, because we're being ruled by ideas.
See, I'm trying to get to you. So that's where people can walk away from this talk. They could, with renewed purpose in life, right? Which is, I know I'm doing all of, it's not about goal oriented in that sense, but somebody. So who would be ideal person to come to the talk, to come to the workshop this weekend? I mean, what are those people going through right now, would you suggest?
Well, we settle for our lives. We kind of take our love of life and diminish it, and we settle for what we've got, and yet we chafe. And so the people who are chafing, the people who feel kind of hemmed in by their life, but they don't know why, this talk will show you exactly the impediments that you're living with in your body and the world around you. The people who are curious, curiosity is fabulous, and we were taught in school not to ask questions. We're taught to learn things, to absorb bits of information. So people with that kind of flicker of curiosity still alive in them, come to the talk. We'll have a ball.
Okay.
I always believe that young people ask a lot of questions. When they become adults, they ask and they teach, and then when they get older, all they do is just teach. They don't even ask anything anymore. So I really think that anybody really can benefit from your talk, and definitely be inspired to know more about that connection, that way, the missing neck between the head and the body, and accept that when they get the truths, their lives will change.
And what they come away with is principles. So a principle is the opposite of a rule. A rule is something that stops certain action. It's in your way, don't do this, don't do that, do this this way. It boxes you in. A principle is a beginning. It's like it doesn't anticipate where it's leading to. Bernoulli's principle is what enables an airplane to fly. It's what enables a windmill to generate electricity. It's what you can make a waterfall work because of Bernoulli's principle. The same thing, the principle of, for example, first being, then doing. If you understand that principle, that all of your doing should be rooted in your being, and then suddenly your being is there to sustain it and nurture it in whatever you do and to guide it. But what we do is we cut our doing off from our being. We put doing first, and then being never catches up.
Okay. So we don't cut off the heads and the males. We keep them.
Keep that
and attach them to the bellies, to the females, where it's nice and warm.
I know that you're just using a metaphor there.
I know, yeah. I don't really mean to cut off heads.
Okay, now Philip, if people want to find out more, if they want to get tickets, or how do they?
The talk is at 918 Bathurst Street, which is 2 blocks north of Bloor. And it's from 7 to 9 on Friday the 27th. And the workshop is at the same place, 918 Bathurst. And it's from 10 to 5 both Saturday and Sunday. And everything's on my website,
okay,
which is philipshepherd.com. Philip is spelled
one L,
Philip, and shepherd is spelled like the guy who looks after sheep. SHEPHERD, philipshepherd.com.
Great, and we're just going to mention that you're doing another talk or something, event called Radiant Embodiment with Andrew Harvey, who you brought here a couple weeks ago. Do you want to just briefly mention what that's all about? Yeah,
I'd love to. And it's just so people know, it's in the same place on 918 Bathurst on February 9th, which is a Thursday evening, from 7 to 9. Andrew has been working for years and years to understand where we need to go, basically, if we're going to get through this mess we've created. And one of the main things he teaches is that we need to come back to our bodies, because if we continue to estrange ourselves from the bodies, we will continue to be estranged from the world. You know, you can't sit in a laboratory and heal your relationship with the world. So when one returns to the body, eventually at the beginning you're returning to yourself, but then you're returning to the world itself, and the whole sacred wonder of the world is there in your body and experienced in your body. So that's what radiant embodiment is about, and we're both going to be talking about what that means to live in that state.
Okay, great. So and
Wonderful.
people can find out about that also on the website, philipshepard.com, and that's February 9th, so just coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you're going to have the book available.
I think I'll have the book available at all 3 events.
Awesome.
And,
So, and it's a great
with a
book.
pen at the ready to sign any.
Awesome, because I've got a copy and I'm still in the middle of it.
Your library is
That's great.
growing extensively.
Yes, it is.
It's really nice.
Okay, Philip, thanks for doing this as always.
Thank you
and
so much.
look forward to having you back.
You bet. You
Okay.
bet.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, come back in a couple of minutes with Lisa Robbins, and we're going to talk about how to heal yourself from cancer and a lot more. We'll be right back here on Liquid Lunch.
Have you ever dreamed about having your own TV show? Well, at thatchannel.com, you can. Thatchannel.com, where you are the future of TV. Have you ever dreamed about having your own show? Well, at thatchannel.com, you can. At thatchannel.com, you are the future of TV. The only thing that I love more than puppies is producing TV for people like you who dream about having their own show. At thatchannel.com, you can have your own show. At thatchannel.com, you are the future of TV. Puppies, huge abundance of love. Hey, you want to be a star? Produce your own show at thatchannel.com. It's fun, it's easy. Contact us, thatchannel.com, where you are the future of TV.
Thatchannel.com, where you can go to have your own show.
Have you ever dreamed about having your own TV show? Well, at thatchannel.com, you can. Thatchannel.com, where you are the future of TV. Have you ever dreamed about having your own show? Well, at thatchannel.com, you can. At thatchannel.com, you are the future of TV.
Machine. The first thing people have to do is to learn to use their power. Their healing power, their mind power. The truth is coming out that nutrition is the second most powerful principle to healing from cancer, and the first most powerful principle is believing that you can. The reason I'm so passionate about this work is because I have a lot invested personally. Both my parents had conventional treatments for cancer, and like a lot of people from my generation who lost their parents to conventional treatments, I realized that something was terribly wrong with what we were doing. For years, they suffered. And running parallel to that life, I kept seeing glimpses, little messages of other people that were healing themselves completely, easily. So what happened was, as my mom was going through all the conventional treatments, I was educating myself. I became a registered holistic nutritionist, and then I got a Bachelor of Science in Holistic Nutrition, which really taught me how to heal your body with food and herbs. I just really immersed myself in that world, that alternate world, and I began learning how to make my own anti-cancer tea, and I experimented on all kinds of people, friends who had basal cell carcinomas, client with a melanoma, and what I found was so amazing, that these simple herbs healed our body so well that there was no cancer. And what people who have learned to heal themselves have done is to promote the health of the body, promote the health of your body, our body. So doing radiation, taking chemotherapy treatments, those things damage our immune system, permanently damage our organs, and hamper our ability to fight cancer. Healing our body with foods and herbs, that's what our body needs. The nutrition and herbs and foods give your body something to work with, the tools it needs to protect itself. The truth is, the new beliefs about cancer are that we can heal ourselves, we can educate ourselves, we can help each other. That's the truth. I wrote the Cancer Journal as a roadmap. I took the last 10 years of my education, of my experience, of my knowledge that I developed about what happened when you didn't heal yourself, when you didn't give your body what it needs. I found out lots of amazing things. I met so many amazing people that have cured themselves. I documented the 10 principles of healing. I made charts. I pared down everything that you have to do to heal yourself and everything that you have to stop doing, everything that contributes to your causes cancer. And I pared all that down into 2 charts that are in the book, so you can print the charts and put them on your fridge. Detailed information about herbs, recipes, tips, links to databases, links to journal articles that prove what I'm talking about. My website is thegoodwitch.ca. That's the very first website that I started, and you can get the Cancer Journal, Heal Yourself, on thegoodwitch.ca in the cauldron shop. So there's a little cauldron. You'll see the book on the front page, so just go to thegoodwitch.ca and you can download the book. In seconds it will be on your hard drive. The most powerful motivation to believing that I could heal from cancer, or that anyone could heal from cancer, was hearing stories of other people who had already done it. These powerful stories need to come out, and the people that have them want to share them. So I've designed a place where this can happen, and it's called the IncredibleHealingJournals.com. So at the Incredible Healing Journals, we can all share our stories of healing so that we can all uplift and motivate each other to heal ourselves. There's no reason to be scared of cancer anymore because we've already cured it.
And I thought, you shouldn't do that.
No.
Okay, welcome back to Liquid Lunch. So that was Lisa Robbins, and we got Lisa here. Lisa, great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And you are the author of this book here, The Cancer Journal, Heal Yourself, right?
Yes, that's right.
Now, and it took you 10 years to write this book, is that right?
Between research and writing it, yep, and educated myself about the whole issue and topics. Okay,
so let's talk about this. This is a huge topic, especially for anybody out there that is trying to deal with cancer, either for themselves or with a loved one or somebody in their family.
Yeah.
And now you asked me how I felt about cancer,
mm-hmm.
right?
What does it, when you hear the word, how does it make you feel inside?
Well, not as bad as I used to.
Right.
When I was a kid, I used to watch that show Medical Center. Remember that?
Yeah.
I used to watch that, and every show I'd think that I had whatever that episode was all about. I was a real hypochondriac. But it doesn't, I must say, it doesn't affect me as much now. Part of me actually totally believes what you're talking about here, that we can cure ourselves.
Yeah.
Why don't you just tell the story how you came to write this book?
Okay, sure. Well, both of my parents went through conventional treatments for cancer, and they both died, as you saw in the video, really horrific deaths. It was long and drawn out, and they had body parts removed, radiation, chemotherapy, and all those things. And while I was going through that whole situation with my parents, I realized that there was a whole other world where people were completely curing themselves with natural therapies.
Now, is that just because you were so concerned about them, you did some research on your own and you were finding this whole other world?
Yeah, I'm a little bit of an obsessive researcher. So I worked, at the time I worked in a nursing college, so I had access to nursing journals, and I saved hundreds, thousands really, of pieces of paper that showed all kinds of, studies and journal articles and advertising pieces and fundraising pieces, and I just started to put the whole picture together. But the big part, the part that I love more than anything, is that there are, like I said before, there are people that have completely cured themselves without medical intervention, in many cases, and there are principles of how our body heals. And so those people, even though they have a different cancer, or they have a completely different environment around them, their bodies are different, our bodies heal the same way. All of our bodies heal the same way. And when you give your body what it needs to protect itself and to cleanse itself out, guess what happens? It heals. And it doesn't matter whether you're Dr. Sue Gelder, who had a tumor wrapped around the base of her spine, growing tentacles out from her spine, or Kapil Arn, who was covered in pimples. They started on his arms, then they went up his upper arms, then up his neck, and then they turned into weeping sores, and then he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It doesn't matter who you are or what the situation is, but when you look for those answers of how your body needs to heal. So in Kapil's case, he was addicted to carbohydrates, which many, probably all cancer patients are, but he also had his mouth full of mercury fillings. And once he had the mercury fillings removed, and he started to feed his body what it needed to protect itself, and he cleansed everything out that was junk, guess what? This is, I think about 19 years now that he's been without cancer, and he almost died. And Dr. Sue Gelder, she's a homeopathic doctor and a naturopathic consultant in the UK, and she had this tumor coming out of her spine. She was in bed for 8 months, bedridden. Her one leg atrophied to half its size, and from that place she completely healed herself by herself in her own home with no medical intervention.
Wow.
Yeah. It's incredible. It really is incredible.
Are those cases both in the book?
No, because those people I spoke to after, but the book does have many stories of people who have healed themselves completely.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people I find, and I don't know if you tried to bring any of these alternative therapies to your parents, a lot of people I talk to, well, not that there's a lot, but some people that I know that have been diagnosed or are dealing with cancer, but you tell them that there are other approaches, and they're not even open to discussing it. Like it's like a real worldview situation, or maybe they don't want to take any kind of responsibility for their own health. I'm not sure what it is, but do you find that?
Yes, I find it hugely. And even in my own personal case with my mom, I was already into this stuff, and I knew that what was happening, but I couldn't, she took my tea for a few months on and off, and she had bowel cancer tumors that had metastasized to her lung, and taking the tea made her cough out tumors, and you'll see a pathology report in my book about that. And that's not an uncommon happening when people take herbal medicines for cancer.
What was the tea? What was it?
The tea is in the book, but it's based on a tea that was made from Harry Hoxsey, Dr. Harry Hoxsey, who was a naturopathic doctor. And in 1957, he had the largest cancer clinic in the entire world. He employed, I think, 26 doctors and nurses, and people came from all over the world to be healed from cancer. And one of the stories in my book is of a woman named Yvonne Chamberlain. Yvonne lives in Australia, and I interviewed her, and her interview is on the IncredibleHealingJournals.com. But Yvonne, when she was in her 20s, she was in a grocery store, and she had a melanoma. Well, she didn't know at that time. She had a mole on her leg. She went into the doctor beside the grocery store to ask him, I have this spot, what do you think it is? And his face went all funny, and his mannerism went all funny. And next thing you know, she's seen all these doctors, and they want to amputate her leg. They want her, they give her 6 weeks to live, and they tell her if she doesn't do what they say, then she's going to die. So of course she said, well, if I only have 6 weeks to live, why would I amputate my leg? Mm-hmm. So she actually went to Harry Hoxsey's clinic, and at that time it had been pushed out of the United States into Mexico. And like the pictures you saw in the back of the book of the breast tumors that were taken off with or killed with an escharotic, the clinic used an escharotic, which is a caustic herbal paste that will actually burn through the tumor and cause your immune system to come up from underneath and push the tumor right out of your body. And that's exactly what happened to her leg. So in 10 days, that tumor had fallen off her leg, and off she went back home. And that was over 26, probably 27 or 28 years ago now.
Okay, can I ask about something a little more current, maybe? Because
yeah, sure.
A lot of people are concerned, but of course, we have, with the Fukushima disaster in Japan, and that radiation that's floating all over the northern hemisphere, a lot of people are concerned that it could be causing cancers that may not, that may affect us for the next couple of decades.
Okay.
I mean, is there an approach for people to deal with that possibility of cancer from that, which is a very unusual source? I mean, we don't really, we're not used to having that in our environment.
Not that amount of radiation, but we do have radiation occurring all the time, and our bodies have ways of dealing with it. But there's a way to protect yourself against radiation, and especially you're worried about your thyroid gland with radiation like that. And so the thing that protects your thyroid gland from radiation is iodine, because it goes into the little receptors in your thyroid gland and fills the holes. So now the radiation, the iodine, because that's iodinic radiation, can't get in to damage your thyroid. And there's also nutrition that will take radiation out of your body, and that nutrition is contained in seaweeds. So seaweeds are our most nutritious food for humans. They have absolutely everything in them.
Sushi.
Sushi, yes.
Sushi.
But now, I'm not sure if we can trust the sushi or the seaweed, because all that radiation got dumped into the ocean, right?
Well, I mean, you'd be better off to take seaweed than not to take it.
Okay.
Because your body uses nutrition to protect itself. And so it's going to use the nutrition in the seaweed to protect its own cells, because we know that before you have cancer, you have cell damage. Always. And it doesn't matter whether that cell damage came from radiation, from excess heat, from excess wound, from too much acid in your body, from too much stress, which would also create acid and suppress your immune system. So there's always damage to cells. Once the damage is there, now you have fungal colonies can come and move in, and this is what forms tumors. Because once you have cells that can't protect themselves, then you have fungus and viruses and bacteria growing in the cells, and your immune system moves in to try and protect, and this is what forms the white coating on a tumor. So when my mom coughed tumors out of her lung, well, the one that we took into the pathologist was about the size of a pea, a chickpea, and it was coated in white. And that is your immune cells attacking the colony that's beneath that skin of immunity. So when you cut a tumor open, you'll find that there's a fungus inside.
Isn't that incredible how the body protects itself?
Well, it does its best to, and what you're saying is if you take the right strategies, you can, your body's always working to protect, but
always. But
it gets overwhelmed, I guess, sometimes if we aren't adopting the right strategy.
So it's deficiencies that are causing the cancer tumors to formulate and actually be detected. Eventually, they're getting bigger.
It can be deficiencies because you don't have enough nutrition to protect your own cells, and it can also be too much congestion and toxins inside your body. So if we take in dairy products and meats and saturated fats and hydrogenated fats and things like that your body can't necessarily use to rebuild into itself, this becomes congestion in your arteries and in your liver and in your gallbladder. And this is why we have an epidemic of gallbladder removal, because the gallbladder is, in a lot of people, is full of congestion. So once the liver and the gallbladder is congested, that expands out to all your arteries and your entire body. And so you could begin eating an organic diet, but if you don't remove that congestion first, then it's still there. So cleansing is a huge part of healing.
What are some of the detoxes that you may suggest for people to prepare themselves with some of these key diets that you mentioned in here?
Well, if you go to my website, thegoodwitch.ca, on the right-hand sidebar, you'll see a little form, and there you can download a cleansing document that has 9 different cleanses. So it's cleansing your kidneys, your bowel, your liver and gallbladder, your blood. They're all different. So you can start there, and there's a brown rice cleanse, which is perfect for anyone because it's actually a diet that you could eat for the rest of your life. But it's very cleansing. All whole foods, an excellent diet, an excellent first cleanse.
And
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
And then you would suggest following the steps that you have in this book in order to facilitate the removal or extractions of possible cure cancers and to start curing the body from within.
Well, nothing can cure cancer except your own body. So in my book there's 10 principles, and those principles were formed from people who have already cured themselves. So there's certain key things that they do to cure themselves, and that's cleansing and believing that your body can heal itself, because it truly can once it's given what it needs, and using herbs, because herbs are so powerful. I mean, right now there's a company called Cannabis Science, and they're trying to extract the key components of cannabis oil, which can do exactly what that escharotic does. So you'll see on the internet there's pictures of tumors where they put the cannabis oil on the tumor, and it causes the tumor to fester and your immune system pushes it out of your body. Exactly the same way that happens. So what I'm saying is, why do we wait until a pharmaceutical company patents a part of a plant that can heal us when we can do it ourselves? Like, for instance, if you take a red clover flower and you look up on the internet on the Dr. Duke's phytochemical and ethnobotanical database, you will find that the tiny little red clover flower has thousands of anti-cancer properties. Thousands. And all we have to do is make a tea of red clover and drink it. And we get all of those synergistic, properties helping us, not just one that someone's making money on.
Wow.
Now you mentioned, so obviously nutrition is one approach.
Nutrition is huge.
You've got to think about the detox, because we're talking about one of the causes of cancer. Obviously, are the toxins that accumulate, whether through our food, through our environment, the poisons, pollution, that sort of thing. But what about attitudes and the way that people think? Because some people talk about a toxic personality, whatever that means, being one of the contributors to getting cancer.
Do you mean someone who's negative?
Somebody who's negative, or somebody who's just, negative.
Okay, so let's just look at 2 things that cause, people to be negative. Fear is a huge one. And the thing about fear is that we're totally controlled by fear. So our intuition, our reasoning is right here. And as soon as we enter fear, everything moves back here. And this is where we run away from problems. But this is where we figure them out. So if we live in fear, which my parents both lived in fear, and I know when I was a teenager, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, I was devastatedly afraid. I thought for sure my whole family was going to die, I was going to get it, and that's what they thought. And that fear controlled everything that they did. You see, sometimes when someone's diagnosed with cancer, they're not given time to think about it. They're not given time to find alternatives. And they're just rushed in. They have surgery, they have bone scans, they have, things that actually start setting them back further and further and further. And now their bodies, after, all this treatment, their body's unable to heal itself.
Surrendered itself to
unless you take huge strides to do so. Because some of those things permanently damage us. So fear is a huge factor, and your emotions and negativity, what you believe, what we were brought up to believe. See, I was brought up to believe that cancer was deadly, that it was going to kill my family and it was going to kill me. But those beliefs changed once I became informed about what the truth was. So for power and belief, that's why we use stories of people who have healed themselves, because they are so motivating. When you realize that someone could take a tumor that was at the base of their spine and they couldn't even walk, crawling to the bathroom, and use the power of their mind to go in a little submarine and swim down to that tumor every day while she was lying in bed by herself, get out of the submarine and chop away at the tumor. What she's really doing is directing her immune system to kill that tumor. You have a very much power to do that. But if we don't realize we have that power, we just sit complacently and you know, don't do anything about it.
So there's a dietary approach. Now, what that sounds like a mental approach or a visualization.
Lots of things in the power part. Visualization, belief, you know, realizing that you actually can heal, educating yourself, lots of stuff in that power part.
And are there other, so if those are two approaches, diet and kind of mental power.
Other principles?
Other principles. Are there other?
Yeah, using the herbs, moving and breathing, because that's so important. The biggest component, I have to say, the biggest component of healing yourself is becoming aware of the messages your body is sending you, because messages come to humans, come to us in symptoms. And if we ignore those symptoms and suppress them with medication or alcohol or whatever we do, then we're not acknowledging that that symptom's there and why is it there and getting rid of it.
See, that reminds me of our last interview with Philip.
I know, I was feeling, but you see, we think our minds are connected to our bodies.
Through our necks.
Yes, thank
God.
God.
We use our necks to do that.
These are necks to connect to our bodies, and knowing that we become one attached and listening to the communications of our bodies and what it's saying.
Yes.
Looking at the wallpaper, as the case of this lady here who realized that there's something going on existing now that she can now do versus later on in relations to her control with her body and acknowledging what her body's messages they're sending.
Yeah.
So,
and acknowledging how powerful we really are to heal ourselves.
Powerful,
so powerful. And why would we want to suppress that power?
Because we're thinking from our heads, right?
Because we're uninformed, because we don't know that we have the power. But I mean, if you cut yourself and then you know how you put the rapid film and you watch that heal, well, our bodies do the exact same thing with cancer.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we don't have a lot of time left, Lisa, so I want to make sure we talk about everything. But
are you doing any speaking engagements where people can learn more about what you're
We do have some stuff in the works, yes, but not anything right at the moment.
Okay.
But if people are looking for the book, it's at thegoodwitch.ca.
Okay.
And it seems to me that it's almost maybe not just for people who are already have cancer, but people who, because everybody has the potential, maybe, and if you know that you're not eating properly, if you know that you're not breathing properly and doing all these things that we've just touched on briefly, then you're a candidate, you know, then is there preventative stuff in here that people
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I wrote the book for people who have cancer, but most of the people that are reading the book now are people in my generation who don't have it yet, but are worried about it. And even people in my children's generation are very interested in.
Well, they say cancer rates are going up, right? Whether it's through processed food or whatever it is, but our lifestyles have changed since we were kids to where we are now.
And the way we react to those things changes.
Yeah. Now, I just got to ask you this before we get moving, because you talk about the importance of herbs and that sort of thing. Some people are talking about that a lot of our access to certain herbal remedies and that sort of thing are being threatened by new policies of Health Canada and other regulatory bodies. Do you have any comment about that?
Yeah, absolutely, because I live in the country. I have a huge organic garden, and many of the herbs that I use to make my own formulas, I grow in my garden, or I pick out of the fields. So the thing is, wherever you live in the world, there are plants that have very powerful anti-cancer properties, not just pau d'arco from South America or burdock from Canada. So once you know how to look for those plants and you can go talk to a master herbalist, they'll direct you exactly what to do. And it's so simple to make your own medicine. You just mix it, brew it up like tea.
See, that's why you got to move to
There's no
urbanites
secrets
in Ontario.
No secrets.
Move to past Brampton, right?
I live east.
See, you got to live out of the city of Toronto so you can have the land to
Yes, no fluoride in your water. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. That's why so many people move out there.
I heard iodine. You mentioned iodine. So you can use that to get rid of the fluoride in your body. I just heard that.
Yes, that's right. Because iodine will attach to things and take it out, but so will many of the things, the properties that are in seaweed. So that's why seaweed is so important.
And that's why sushi is a big commodity here in Toronto.
Yeah.
Sadly, we're not going to have sushi today.
We should have sushi for lunch.
Well, I thought we were going to do juice.
We could do juice and sushi.
Oh, okay. All right, Lisa. Great to have you on the show and talk about this, because obviously for anybody that's dealing with it or knows somebody who is, this would be a great starting point. And sad, I have to say, I wish I knew about this book, you know, a few months ago.
Yeah.
As I would have probably sent it to somebody.
What's wonderful about this book, as I was looking into it also, there's over 20 pages of references online for people who are, of course, a lot of our viewers are online.
Yep.
Savvies that can refer to a lot of these references that you provide. So I think this is a great journal and resources to go through for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa. So again, people can get that at your website, thegoodwitch.ca.
Yep, and they can hear the stories, the true stories of natural healing. They're all 15 minutes. IncredibleHealingJournals.com.
IncredibleHealingJournals.com.
Yep.
Any other websites you want to?
That's good for now.
Incredible Healing Journals.
Great preventative as well as curing.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a nutritionist, and I love food, and I love to cook. So in the book, it links you to hundreds of recipes that are on the Good Witch website to help you start to incorporate those foods in a way that you're going to love. Really, really tasty recipes.
Fabulous. Okay.
My first time meeting a Good Witch.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Hey, Lisa, thanks. And we've got another video. We're going to go out with this video. Now, what's this video? What's it going to...
I think this is Dr. Sue. I think this is the one with the tumor around her spine,
wow.
I believe.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming in today, all the way from Peterborough-ish.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back
you.
in a couple minutes with Susan Sommers as Liquid Lunch continues here on a Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Excellent.
Hello, I'm Lisa Robbins. Welcome to the Incredible Healing Journals. Today I have a very special guest I'm really excited about because this story is incredible. I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Sue Gelder. She has a Bachelor of Science Honors in Biomedical Science and a Bachelor of Science Honors in Homeopathy. She's a naturopath consultant out of the UK. But more than these accomplishments, Sue has something spectacular to tell us today. She's going to share an amazing story about a tumor wrapped around her spine, and I'm not going to give you any more than that, and I'm just going to let Sue tell you her story. So we'll just get started. Welcome, Sue.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you very much for having me on this video that you're doing today.
How did you get to where you are today?
I was studying biomedical sciences at the time, and I was part way through, and I've been getting backache, and then I've been going to the chiropractor to try and get that sorted, because I thought if I do it myself, you know, rather than go to the doctor, I didn't want to go down the medical route. I'd had back problems, and I'd ended up having an operation, which was successful. But then this time I thought, well, I'll try the natural route first. But it got worse and worse. And the chiropractor actually came out to me to see what was happening. And he really didn't know what to do. There's some pain. I mean, literally, I couldn't even sit up to have a drink or anything. Just going to the bathroom was, to say difficult, it was more than difficult. You know, I had to crawl on my hands and knees just to get to the bathroom, and that was literally in the next room. So what happened was my GP, general practitioner, doctor, came to see me, did give me some medication, but really didn't even do a thing for me. And he referred me straight to the hospital. But the hospital didn't reply, and I was waiting for 8 months, just laid in bed with nothing to do. I didn't have a television in my bedroom. I didn't even have the phone in my bedroom. So I was just stuck there with just wondering what was going on. The pain radiated all the way down my right leg. And what did happen is that I lost half of my right leg in that it looked half the size. That's
you mean,
the
oh, the
effect
muscles,
of it.
right.
Yeah, it just atrophied completely. So eventually my daughter came to visit me again. I mean, she did that regularly, but this particular time I was in just so much pain. She rang for the ambulance, which promptly took me to the hospital, and they kept me in for a little while. They did send me home. They'd give me a shot of morphine straight into the vein. I ended up going back in hospital again a few days later, and they kept me in this time. And they did the scans and all the MRI things that they needed to do. And on this occasion, this was, I think it was the 12th of December 2001, the doctor came to me and he showed me on the film that, yes, you've got a tumour, it's as big as my hand, you know, and at the base of my spine, and it was coming out. It had tentacles coming out, and they were wrapping around the nerves coming out of the spinal cord, and they were twisting them as well. So that's why I was in so much pain. That's why every little move is quite painful, at least. The other thing he did say was that I am so sorry, but I can't do anything. This is not the type that will respond to chemotherapy. This is not the type that can be radiated away. And I don't really want to operate because I will paralyse you, and there is no guarantee that you'd be out of pain. But on top of that, being paralysed, you will have the additional complications, which could shorten your life very quickly. Yeah, they did give me the death sentence. It certainly wasn't long enough. They did think, what they do on the kind of tumour that I had was they give you 3 years from the date when they find it. But really nobody expected me to live more than a year anyway, and that is in extreme pain. I was on hourly morphine, and it really wasn't touching the pain that much either. I mean, it was still very, very painful. So that's where I was. It was quite interesting that my husband and my friend never talked about it. But then what did happen was I didn't even tell the family that I had been given the death sentence. And I did that deliberately because I knew I would not be able to cope with their grief. You know, so I suppose that's being very selfish. I mean, at the time, because that's all I could do, is that I knew I had to think positive if I was going to get better. And I knew I couldn't cope with anything negative. So that's how I decided to react to the whole thing.
The resources are obviously limited. In taking a tumor out of your spine, it's got to be impossible. So, Sue, how did you overcome the fear of yourself and everyone else? Because that's the biggest thing for people.
Yeah, the fear from the family was only that, they never thought I'd be able to get up and walk again. For my own fear, I just decided that this was not going to be the outcome. You know, I wasn't prepared to accept that. I hadn't planned on dying anytime soon anyway. And I thought, well, how am I going to do this? I mean, that was a big thing. What I thought of at that time was how I'm going to get out of the pain, because it was stopping me. It was stopping me from healing myself. You know, the pain was so intense. And I thought, at the time, the only thing I knew at that time was the Chinese are experts at pain management, just with the mind. So that's what I knew. That's all I knew, but I didn't know how they did it because I'd never read up on anything about how they did it. So I thought, well, I'll just have to figure it out. And figure it out, I did. Wow. It took me a few days.
It gives me truth shivers just hearing you talk about it, because it's so incredible how much power people have when they realize that all they have to do is realize they have the power. I don't want you to give away everything because I know your whole story is in your book, and I know you do have a preview, but you can talk about that in a minute. But
Sure.
Can you just touch on what types of therapies, products, or other ideas that you use to heal yourself? Because most of what you did were more mind control. Is there anything else that you can share with us that might help the viewers today to overcome the same sort of problem?
Herbs. I actually recommend herbs. In my book there are certain things that I actually recommend, some extremely powerful things. Apart from the mind, which I mean was absolutely amazing, I actually did visualizations as well, not just thinking about how to get rid of the pain, but also how to get rid of the tumour as well. And I keep calling it tumour because that's going to cover a lot of things, whether you've got cancer or non-cancerous tumours. It doesn't matter which, it really makes a difference as to how you deal with it, not what the disease or tumour is called. You know, and that's what we come to is an understanding that disease and tumours and cancer or whatever it is that a person's got really comes from a state of dis-ease.
And we're back here on the show, and hitting the home stretch here, we got Susan Sommers here. Susan, great to have you on the show. Great to meet you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And author of this book, Power Source for Women, proven fitness techniques, strategies, proven fitness strategies, tools, and success stories for women 45 plus, right?
Right.
So, now you started running. Should I say it, at the age you were?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, 61 years old, you ran your first marathon.
I did my first marathon, yeah. I had actually started in 2002 to work out at the YMCA, and then I started doing 5K, 10K, half marathons, and then at the age of 61 I did my first full marathon.
Okay, which YMCA was it?
North York.
Oh, yeah. That's not the one I go to. But what was it that got you, first of all, into fitness? And then what got you into running?
Well, it was interesting because I smoked from the time that I was about 16 to 30, and then I quit cold turkey, gained 20 pounds, got divorced, all the things that people go through, and suddenly I said, I better do something. I also was watching my mother age and, lose some of her mobility, so I said, you know what, I really need to do it. I happened to be working at the YMCA at the time, and so I got 2 free memberships in 2002, and that got me started.
Okay, well, that's good. The free membership is, I tried to get a free membership. They wouldn't give me one.
That's an incentive.
They wouldn't give you one.
They wouldn't.
How do you get refused from the YMCA?
Well, it's not free. They have to pay the bills, no, well, what was it about running? Like, what attracted you? Because I'm thinking, actually, we were talking to it before you got here today, that, because I used to run too, and I don't really run anymore. And not that I do other fitness stuff, but it can be hard on your joints, like all that pounding, right?
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting because I started later, and because I would say I walk and jog. I'm not really a runner, but all the people who did start running young, you're exactly right. Their knees go, things go by the time they're 30 or 40, but because I started so late, I was able to really pace myself. And I promised myself that I would finish races without getting injured. Mm-hmm. Those were 2 goals that I had, right? So that was right from the beginning.
There's probably a right way to do running so that it is not so hard on your joints. But younger people, when they do it, they just don't even think about it. They just start running because they can. Right?
Well, I think because there's a high to that fast movement,
And being first.
And being first, exactly. Runners are very competitive, very competitive.
Instead of looking at it for its health benefits or just the mere importance of completion.
Just moving.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about.
Well, it's so, again, just following the synchronicities on the show, because Lisa, our last guest, was talking about the importance of fitness and moving, as one of the strategies of preventing and curing cancer.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And you did this because you saw your mom aging.
Yes.
And you wanted to just, you wanted to do what you could to just...
Yeah, I wanted to sustain. I wanted to be able to move. I didn't want to fall. I wanted to lose weight. So I think all those things tied in together. And when I joined the Y, I saw women who were fit. Mm-hmm. So that was really an incentive for me, right?
Do you think, you hear, I've heard this, 80's the new 40. 50's the new 25 and stuff like that.
Right.
Do you think that that's true? I'm starting to think that, and you see some really amazing looking older men and women, right? That, in fact, I saw a guy yesterday. The last time I saw him, I swear he looked 30 years older.
Yes, this is what happens, right? Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing, but we're all doing something, right?
Well, I think the fact that people are not retiring now, that they're staying active, you know, I mean, I have my own business, so I'm always reinventing myself, and that's probably the key, is to keep setting the goals
and making that critical choice that you acknowledged, as you said, you know, after 30 years, you made that decision to quit cold turkey and stop that cycle, and you actually flipped it to the other side and went totally healthy with your approach on life. So I think that's making a profound differences into how people are aging and approaching their health.
And I think after I did my first marathon, that's when I really got it, that it was going to change my life.
Yeah.
What do you mean, got it? What do you, like, what was that?
Well, because you know what, I'm an entrepreneur. I never used to set long-term goals. I'd go in all kinds of directions, you know, and whatever I wanted to do, I did. And to actually train for 6 months, not knowing if in fact you could achieve something, and then to actually get there, do it, and finish and get a medal, I think is probably, it changes everything in terms of your life, you know.
But getting the medal is very different than being healthy, than achieving a longer-term health lifestyle. Not even a goal, but a lifestyle. Right?
Yeah. And I work out now 5 or 6 times a week. So I do weights classes. I just took up Zumba. You know, I do...
Zumba?
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard of Zumba.
Yeah.
That's
it's great. It's like dance. Yeah, exactly. The only thing I don't do is yoga and swimming. Those are 2 things that I know eventually I probably will and could and should. But yeah, so I'm committed on an ongoing basis. And I don't always want to do it, but I don't think about it. I get up in the morning,
just do it anyway.
put on my clothes, and go to the Y.
What time do you get up in the morning?
4:45.
4:45?
Yeah.
What time does the Y open?
It's 24 hours. Now it's 24 hours.
That's good.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what that time looks like.
No, I do. I've been there.
But don't ask what time I go to bed, right? Exactly.
What time do you go to bed?
Yeah, 8:39.
Really?
Yeah, well, just because you can't get up early and go to sleep late, right? So it's...
Everything's got to be early or everything's got to be late.
If you go to bed at 9 and you get up at let's say 5.
5, right?
Then you're getting 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, that's good.
You just need 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I go out at night, you know, then during the week, then I'll either sleep in or not go to the Y or still go to the Y. So
it balances up.
Well, because you feel better, you know, you do. Once you get into that routine, if you don't do it, then it hurts. Then you're suffering. Right?
Exactly. And if I didn't do it for long enough, I'd stop doing it. I mean, I don't kid myself that if I didn't do it for a month, it would be hard to get back into it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you got the book, and I guess it's really for, well, like the title says, for women 45 plus?
Right. And I guess what happened was after I did these marathons, I went out and I started speaking, and women started saying, you know what, we don't have tools, we don't have role models of women who are over 50 who've done amazing things, we don't have strategies, we don't have a plan, and so that's how the book evolved. I co-wrote the book with a woman who's 45. So it's a very interesting 2 perspectives on being a woman and being certain ages, right? So, and she's got a psychology background, so there's a lot of self-assessment tools and a lot of psychology side of it, the mental side of it.
It sounds like it's more than just a book. It's almost like a program that, that somebody can adopt and incorporate fitness into their 45 plus lifestyle.
Yes.
And you mentioned that it's not just a book, it's a business. It's a new business for you, right? You mentioned you're an entrepreneur and you've been in the marketing and media relations for a long time.
Yeah.
What is this business exactly that you're in now?
So then after we did the book, women would say, okay, so now I've got the book. Now it's what do I do, right? Yeah. So we said, okay, so we now need to have things like keynotes where we can go out and speak to groups of women. Workshops where we can actually work with the book, and there's a journal in the book, so we actually use that as well. We want to do weekend retreats, and we did our first 5K team. We put a group of women into the Toronto Marathon last spring, because walking and running. Because if you can walk for 45 minutes, you can do 5K. And there's nothing more empowering than doing your first event, because you train for it, you complete it. And you're right, it's not just the medal, it's the fact that you've achieved something, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that, and you know, so those are some of the things that Power Source for Women is doing.
Okay.
Why should someone get this book versus any other exercise book?
Well, I guess because, as I mentioned, it's mental, physical, and emotional fitness. So we started with mental fitness, and one of the big reasons is because I know doing a 7.5 marathon, after about 4 hours, it's all mental. It's not just that you're moving, it's that you have to think your way through it. So that's what a lot of fitness is. It's really committing mentally and setting goals and overcoming some of your doubts. So, and then it's physical, actually putting together the plan, and we've got the plan in there that doesn't require a lot of equipment. And then it's emotional. We go into things like vision boards. We go into how do you overcome obstacles? How do you reward yourself? You know, women don't reward themselves. They don't take the time to say, you know what, look what I just achieved. Even small things, right? And then setting new goals. So how do you then set some blue sky goals? So it covers right from I don't know what I want to do to being successful and then setting new goals. And that's probably what makes it different.
I had a question. You mentioned the marathon, that you have to think your way through it after...
Right. I'd say about 4 hours.
4 hours
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
Now, I've never run a marathon.
Yeah.
And so can you just talk about what that is? Like, what happens at 4 hours? What happens? Do you hit the wall? Are you totally exhausted?
Yeah, I think that you just, I think what happens is you just basically, you're there, and I had other people being with me. I had a daughter. I had my husband toward the end, who was a marathoner, and so he brought me in. He actually brings me in a number of races, comes back for me. And so I had other people with me, but in the end, you look at it and you say, how could I be out there for another 3 hours? Even though when I was training, I would actually go out for 4 or 5 hours at a time and just move, because I knew that I would have to do that, right? But that's what I'm saying. It's so easy to give up. You know, it's so easy to say, you know, I can't do it. And then you have to be talking to yourself. So then it's really this is what I want to do. I can do it, you know, and that's it becomes very mental.
Wow.
What's the secret to that? I mean, what did you tell yourself that allowed you to...
Okay, I'm going to have white wine after I finish.
Immediately?
Immediately.
At the finish line?
I trained for like 6 months to do this event. I know it's important for me to do it because I want to be a role model for other women. And because of an entrepreneur, once I commit and tell people, then I've told them. So I've told a lot of people, so I can't
let them down.
Let them down. So a lot of that kind of thinking, you know. At the same time, I would say to myself, it's hot. There's no music anymore. It's, you know, there's not cheering crowds. I mean, by the time I came in, there was nothing, right? So there's a lot of that. I watched the porta potties being lifted into the truck, you know, toward the end. Yeah, so I mean, you're really, but in the end, you just basically say, you know what, this is something that I have dreamed of and I've worked for. And I think that's what probably does it, right?
To finish.
I'm just wondering if, like, okay, and you talk about physical, emotional, and mental fitness, right?
Right.
And so, and we're targeting women that are over 45 here, but you know, a fitness strategy is one thing, but what are some of the other benefits that that these women will take away?
Well, I think the main thing is that you feel good about yourself, right? So I think that's where the self-esteem is unbelievable, you know, that you have achieved something. So there's that as well. It changes the way you eat, because suddenly you're not necessarily eating for stress and those kinds of things. You're really eating to fuel your body. When you feel better about your body and you feel that it's capable of things, then I think you start to treat it better.
Right.
And so I started to eat better. You know, I started to, as I said, you know, get pedicures and take care of it more. So there are things that come out of this that go beyond the fact that I exercised.
So it becomes life skills, life sources, and power of life.
Exactly. I drank more water. You know, you just start doing.
So you're exercising your mental muscles as well, and how to stick with it.
Exactly.
How does this translate over to the entrepreneur that you deal with?
Well, it was very funny because I launched this new business, and I've done some workshops that combine the two. My marketing background and the new business. And I guess what I didn't expect with this business, that I would have to go to square one, because I was well known. I knew how to do, I've worked for the media, I teach.
You mean in your old?
Yeah, I teach at U of T, marketing and media, right? So I thought, I'm just going to sail into this, right? But a new business is a new business. And I had to go right back to square one, and I had to say, who are the markets? How am I going to reach them? Even though I know I think they need it, they don't necessarily think they need it, right? So it really was being the same place that new businesses are.
So let's talk about that, because how long have you been doing this now?
It's only a year for the new business, and the book was a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, for women out there now, and I'm assuming again it's 45 plus women, but maybe it's beyond that even.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I got 5 more years before
Yeah.
I pick up the book.
You know what? You could be 20 and look at this, and if you did some of the things in the book at 20, probably
You're probably
you'd be
Are you
way
saying I'm
ahead.
20?
head start.
You think I'm
Exactly.
He thinks I'm 20.
You look 20, Lisa. You look 20.
Wonderful. Yeah. I love it.
But and you mentioned you got to convince these women. Sometimes
Yes.
they don't know that they need it.
Right,
Like,
right.
Can you just speak to those women right now, the ones that maybe don't think they need it, but they really do need it? Can you just?
Yeah.
Well, as I said, I think the thing is when you wrap your head around the fact that you want to age well, and you don't want, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be in pain. You don't necessarily have to, you know, your body doesn't necessarily have to deteriorate in certain ways. You can really, and mentally, you know, they're saying now with Alzheimer's, et cetera, that really physical exercise keeps you mentally alert, right? So it's really important to be proactive. A lot of women go through menopause in their 50s and they say, oh, my body's falling apart, right? What am I going to do? And then you look at other women who say, no, you know, this is just part of a process and I'm going to take care of myself. For example, I now weigh probably 25 pounds more than I weighed when I was 25. But the thing is, I'm healthy. So it's wrapping your head around the fact that being healthy doesn't mean being thin. And it doesn't mean suffering, and it doesn't mean, you know, denying yourself. It really just means it's a very proactive kind of thing.
So you're prioritizing how
Exactly.
you view
Yes.
what is important.
And this is what I say to people, which is start anywhere. Like, can you, like, walk for half an hour? You know, you hear park at the parking lot further away. Take the subway, take the stairs. I mean, like, there's so many ways to get into fitness that are not that, oh my God, I've got to go to the gym 5 times a week. And once you do that, you start, then, as I said, then you commit to like a 5K, and you feel great when you're with other people who are taking care of themselves, you know?
Totally agree.
Okay, so now do you have anything coming? I know you do the keynote sessions. You do the lunch and learns workshops.
Right.
One-on-one or group coaching.
Right.
Do you have anything coming up in the near future?
Well, I think what we'll probably do in the spring will be to do that 5K again. You know, because it gives women a place to start, you know, where they can say, okay, we'll come on your team and we'll walk or run with you. Teresa runs, I walk, right? So yeah, we're going to probably do that with the Toronto Marathon in the spring. And yeah, I mean, I guess so. And then I'd like to do more online. So that's the other market, the online community of women.
Okay.
Would be another market.
So now, I don't know how you do exercise online, but
Mental exercises, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's all about. I think the point is that you start off with the physical, with the body, and you end up at a point of realizing the strengths and powers of your mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. You need to be a woman. No, I'm teasing.
You got to think from your belly, not from your head.
okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean that women out there who are watching this right now and they, because, you know, I can imagine some of these women are going, I do not want to run in the 5K marathon.
Well, actually, it's interesting. The first chapter of the book is Find Your Fitness Passion. And I think that's the key, right? In other words, what is it either that you used to do as a child and stopped doing, or you tried a little bit but gave up? And it can be anything. It's not necessarily running. It could be yoga. It could be walking. It could be swimming.
High jumps?
Yeah, really. What? Anything that you're going to do.
High jumps.
Anything that you're going to do, if you like it, then you'll commit to it. And that's the point, right? I've gone to, for example, yoga. I've gone probably to 5 yoga classes over the last 2 years, and every time after a class I say that's it. Because I don't feel comfortable there. I don't know how to do the things. I don't have the patience.
For the yoga.
Right now, even though I know if I committed for 6 months, it would totally change. You know, I'd feel differently, right? But so that's what I'm saying. So for me to do yoga is not the same as me to do these races or me to do weights classes, right?
But everybody's different. So what you're
That's
saying
what
is
I'm
you got
saying.
to find your passion.
Find
so
your
somebody
passion.
else is the yoga, then
Exactly.
that's fine, right?
Could be bike riding. You know, go bike riding with your, you know, friends or kids or whatever. So just find something that you want to do.
And tie
that's
your
where you start.
passion with your exercise.
That's right, exactly.
Okay, so
Exactly.
for now, and you mentioned now future plans for the business.
Right.
Does that include? Is that the internet? Is that the direction you're going?
Yeah, I
Is
would say that eventually we'd like to have an online community, but what we're really trying to do is break into the U.S. because I have family in California, so I've done a little bit in California, launched the book in California, and I'd like to do some work in Florida, because those are places where there are a lot of women, and you know the weather is great or whatever. So you know, we would like to expand it beyond that. I'd also like to go onto some cruise ships and do some motivational talks. So you know, I sort of have some things that I'd like to do beyond the keynotes and the workshops.
But I think now if you're going to do this kind of work on cruise ships, you have to teach people how to swim.
Exactly. Who's going on them anymore? Exactly.
They have a track on the boat. Some of them may have tracks.
They do. That's
Right?
what we go on the track, and they have gyms as well.
It'd be
I'm
great.
just saying,
A
just in
marathon
case
on
it
a
sinks.
cruise.
Just in case it sinks, like that one in Italy.
Oh, you had to go there.
I tried to make a little joke about it. Okay, so the internet stuff. So no, I mean, so somebody that's resonating with what you're talking about right now, like what's the first step? Do they contact you? Do they buy the book? Do they go to your website? What's the first thing that
I would say the first step would be go to the website, contact us.
And the website is, what is it?
PowerSourceForWomen.com.
PowerSource.
ForWomen.com.
Okay. That's the first step.
Yeah.
And then what do they do?
Contact me.
Uh-huh.
And they can buy the book. The easiest way to buy the book is online at Chapters or at Amazon.
Just type that in.
And the other thing, they can buy the book directly from me.
That's
so
even
that's
better
it,
for you, right?
Yeah.
Are you scheduled? Sorry. Are you scheduled to appear anywhere shortly within the
No,
next
I actually, not right now, but I just did a big Joy of Aging, which was a conference in October. 320 women all got a copy of the book, so I'm planning to do more of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
But if they join my database, if they contact me and get on the database, then I can let them know what I'm doing.
And that's just by going to your website.
Yes.
PowerSourceForWomen.com, right?
Right.
And if they want to, they can, I guess, hire you too to be a motivational speaker.
Absolutely. I'd love it.
Some of these clubs.
Yes.
You know.
Women's groups, fitness groups, networking groups, all those groups.
Okay, great.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Super. Well, thanks for coming in today and bringing us the book and telling us all about what you're up to. And it sounds like the perfect thing that Lisa's going to need in 5 years or so, right, Lisa?
Enjoy the book.
5 more years.
Maybe I should bring 2 copies.
There you go.
Okay, Susan, thanks a lot for doing this.
Okay, thank you.
PowerSourceForWomen.com. And I guess that's it for the show.
That is it. I am feeling fulfilled from head to toe. I feel like I've grown a neck. I'm understanding my body. I'm connecting myself to my conscious beliefs and understandings. I'm not letting the world filtrate my growing capacity to know who I am. I think I will sell the house, and the kids and I can just move into a box down at City Hall, close to where you are. This is your neighborhood.
And then you'll be in touch with your inner child.
Bring my running shoes, go for a run around.
That's right. Join one of the races I'm in.
You know what I mean? Do the marathons around the old City Hall. I'm feeling to move to Toronto. Yes.
Yes.
Except for the fact that there's a farmland out back where I can grow some
Only now
herbs.
they're getting ready to build over all that, aren't they?
They're ready to move that out the Brampton farms, and the cow is really across the street. I don't know. Maybe I'll buy a zoo.
Yeah.
Well, there's a movie. Exactly.
Is there?
Yeah, there's a movie about buying a zoo. Somebody bought a zoo.
That's what I heard about that. Okay, well, I guess that's it for the show. Thanks again, Susan, for doing this
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you, Lisa, for coming down all the way from Brampton.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
And,
or did you?
No, you
I don't think you invited me.
But I was very happy that you did.
Okay.
So, and we'll say just so long, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for more Liquid Lunch right here on thatchannel.com. We're going to go and just finish that video that Lisa Robbins gave us, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thatchannel.com.
Equalising the body is absolutely vital. Everybody needs to get to that stage when they've got cancer or any disease. They really need to look at what they're putting into the body and what is helping the body to repair itself, to renew itself, and to change those cancerous or tumour type cells back into normal cells, or destroy them if necessary.
Right.
So, food is a big thing as well. Now, the fact that I was stuck in bed meant I had definitely changed my diet, in that I used to like sweets, but I couldn't go out and get them, and I wasn't being given them either. So that changed. There's different types of water that's available, you see. Sometimes the water that comes out of the tap isn't even good enough, especially when you're ill. It's not good enough. So there are different things in the book about types of water that is better than tap water to drink, and much more accessible to the body even. Visualization that I did is very, very specific for tumours of any kind.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the tumour is, they can download that and do this visualization themselves free. What I do in the book is not about it's my way or no way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if people really want to go down the medical route, then by all means that is their choice. I'll tell you what I have found is that when they don't go down the medical route, it's a whole lot easier and quicker, because we're then not fighting along with medications and things like that. I mean, if you're going to go down the medical route, make sure you are very, very healthy in the first place, but then you wouldn't be having the problem, would you?
Exactly. Okay, well, that's excellent, Sue. Thank you. So I just have one more question, and that is, what advice can you offer to someone who's just receiving a diagnosis or bad news?